Hey, welcome back to Popcorn for Dinner. This is Jeff.
And Kelly.
So it's TIFF season right now, Toronto International Film Festival.
Okay.
I think it just wrapped up, like in the last day or so.
Mm-hmm.
They had fuck, I forget what they're calling it now. Would it be My Neighbor or whatever? What's the Mr. Rogers movie called? Wonderful Day in the Neighborhood or
Something like that.
Yeah, but that screened.
Mm-hmm.
A couple reviews I saw said it was pretty good. That's good.
Yeah.
I was a little concerned, honestly, from that trailer of watching him playing Mr. Rogers. Like, it's such a weird, like, convergence of childhood. It's like, wait a minute.
And like childhood wholesomeness.
Yeah, exactly. It's just so strange. Where it's like, I know so well what Mr. Rogers looks and sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
And I know so well what Tom Hanks looks and sounds like. So seeing one try to imitate the other was a little off-putting, like where I'm like, I don't know how well I'm gonna buy this.
Yeah.
But apparently people buy it pretty well.
I'm excited for it.
Mm-hmm. I hope it's good. I'm definitely not rooting against it. I'm wondering how I'm gonna deal with that.
But like, who else could play Mr. Rogers?
Yeah, I mean, one that popped into my head that was like, he's just a little too young. It would need to either be in many years when he's older, or they'd have to do something to it. But I can't help but think of Ed Norton.
I can see it.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how much he'd want to.
Yeah.
He's very picky about what he does and
Yeah.
all that. But like, as soon as I heard the casting of Tom Hanks, I was like, yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then my brain went into like, but who else would have done it? I feel like he would have been a really good one. Also, they the Lighthouse showed. Did you see the new trailer for the Lighthouse?
I have not.
It's pretty great. I think it's like the second half of the trailer is mostly Willem Dafoe saying the word "what," like over and over like different shots from the movie. I think they just keep playing the same audio clip of him saying "what." And then it cuts back to the scene where he's saying it, and then Robert Pattinson starts repeating it back at him, like what, and it's just like as chaos just builds and all the rest of the sequences, and it's just like, this is gonna be so fucking weird. I can't wait.
I'm so excited to see just a really weird,
how bizarre it's gonna get.
Oh man!
And I can't believe, like, I will admit I don't know his entire filmography.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to Willem Dafoe, watching this, I just can't help but think, like, how has he not played like a sea captain?
Right.
Like in every other movie in one way or another. Because I know that pirate movies went like out of vogue in the 90s. Like they got, or maybe even earlier than the 90s, but like they got like too expensive and nobody went to see them. And people were like, fuck this. Nobody likes pirates anymore.
Until Pirates of the Caribbean.
Exactly. And then that sort of brought that like sort of naval story back. But it's like, he doesn't even have to play like an old timey pirate. He could just play like a longshoreman or something, just somebody on like a fishing boat or something. Like, how has he not played every role like that? It seems like untapped potential. He's got such a great, like, rugged, scraggly look to him in this movie that just so fits. Like, oh my God, this is the role that he was made to play. All the roles before this were just practice.
He would be the guy they got the boat from to go kill Jaws.
Yeah, honestly, I was thinking about that. I was like, they'd never remake Jaws, but Willem Dafoe would be the perfect new Quint.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh man,
yeah,
that would be a killer one. Which then, of course, always just sends me off on tangents of who would play everyone else in the movie. Patrick Wilson would probably play Chief Brody.
Remind me who Patrick Wilson
is. He's Ed Warren in the Conjuring movies.
Oh, okay.
And he's in Insidious and all that junk. Yeah, he would definitely play Chief Brody in a now version of Jaws.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I couldn't quite place who would play the Richard Dreyfuss character. I was Hooper. Have to be someone kind of manic. Somebody's got a little bit of like to them.
Yeah.
Whatever that quintessential.
But not
indefinable.
Quite, Derek Pimento.
Jason Mantzoukas.
Yes, not quite that.
Yeah, not that far out there. I don't think.
Reel it in a little bit.
That would make for a fucking ridiculous ass movie, though. Like, having like Quentin Brody playing it totally straight, and then just complete insanity from the Hooper character. People are just like, "What is he even talking about?"
That might be a little much.
A little too far in that direction. So for this week's show, we decided to take a look at some movies that we felt could have been so much better.
Mm-hmm.
Movies that had everything going for it, and yet just could not quite bring it across the finish line. At least to us.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who'd be like, that movie was perfect. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Or be like, that movie was insalvageable.
Yeah.
You should have left it at the bottom of the ocean.
Just let it burn.
Burn at the bottom of the ocean. Fucking SpongeBob rules.
Yes. Always.
So hysterically, we both gravitated towards very similar movies.
Yes. For multiple reasons.
So we both picked true crime movies starring Johnny Depp.
Yep.
Which is so funny.
Yep.
Like, and also kind of sad in my sort of, in my feeling. It's like we get two movies starring him playing two of the most notorious like gangsters in American history. And they both fall short. My pick is the more recent Black Mass, but yours is the not nearly as old sounding as I sort of as that intro sort of led anyone to believe.
Yeah.
But Public Enemies.
Yes.
Because I remember us going to see Public Enemies.
Yeah.
And we were pretty darn psyched for it.
I know. I think the worst thing about it is just how it looks.
Yeah.
Like,
I really did not like that.
The technology to make it look like 1930s Chicago, like use film.
Yeah, right.
Like that.
It seems like the obvious choice.
Step one, use film.
Yeah.
Like, why was that decision made?
It's like, I get it a tiny bit simply because I'm pretty sure the movie that Michael Mann did before that was Collateral, one with Tom Cruise as a hitman and Jamie Foxx as a taxi driver driving him around. It's set in LA and it's set in the present day, and he shot it that same way with the like high def video more so than film.
Yeah.
And based on the setting, based on the kind of style of movie it was, it never really came off the way that it does in Public Enemies. It feels a lot more natural. And then you cut to Public Enemies and it's like, okay, well, the setting is not current day Los Angeles. It is 1930s or whatever fucking
Chicago,
middle of the country kind of stuff.
They made 1930s Chicago look decent enough as far as like however they did it with CGI or set pieces or whatever.
Yeah.
It looked good as a set.
It felt very bland and like maybe that's more realistic than the sort of intentionally like highly stylized old gangster movies. But it's like maybe that's what the story kind of needed. It was literally what those movies were kind of about.
Yeah, like
those movies were fake versions of the real shit that Dillinger was doing in the day. So it's like make the Dillinger movie like those movies.
Yeah.
Give it some like flair and panache.
Exactly. Like you can still tell an accurate story. You just jazz it up a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit.
You know?
A few more songs. Come on.
I don't know how well Johnny Depp can sing.
Yeah, I don't know. I know he plays guitar.
That doesn't surprise me.
It's just fucking John Dillinger wailing a solo in the middle of the movie.
As they're escaping.
Yeah, on the roof of the escape car. People are pointing at it like, what the fuck is that thing? Your kids are going to love it. Fucking Public Enemies, Back to the Future crossover.
Back to the Futures, those movies are great the way they are. No one can ever touch them. Public Enemies, though. That should be redone.
You can touch everything. Touch it all.
Mix it all up in there.
Really get your hands in that movie. Rough it around a little bit. Wasn't there like one sequence where they got like Babyface Nelson or something like that? Or Christian Bale's character like caught someone. And even though that technically happened after Dillinger was dead. Also that whole sequence.
I did it. And I actually just rewatched it. And it's just as confusing looking now because you're watching these.
Isn't it a bunch of slow-mo?
There is.
Where it's like,
yes. Such
like the bullets flying at him. And...
No, he gets shot from behind twice. The first one comes out his like face, cheekbone. Right? Yeah. And then the next one comes out like his like ribs.
Okay. Knowing Michael Mann, I'm assuming that he like really accurately portrayed where he, like I'm assuming there's medical records of exactly where he was shot. So I'm assuming he took the exact thing.
They got the exact set because I've been to that corner where he was shot. Like that corner is still intact.
Yeah.
And I've been there, and they got it right.
Right.
How it looks and where he died and that.
Mm-hmm. I think I was a little bummed by how that ending happened because like I sort of just wanted to see it happen. Like it doesn't just like occur, you know. No. It's not like a quick like and you're like, holy shit, you know, he just died. It's like, let's take our time. Slow-mo bullets.
Because they're walking down they're walking down the street and
then they just come out of the theater.
One thing that I meant to look into that I didn't was to see what movie John Dillinger actually went to see the night that he was killed. Oh. And see if that was the movie that was playing in Public Enemies.
I bet you it was.
I don't know if it was because the scene from whatever, like it was a time appropriate movie, I could tell. But whatever scene it was just like too spot on for what was happening in Public Enemies.
Like Israel. Nod, wink.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's, you know, his character talking about like it's better to be killed than be locked up in prison.
Oh. Okay, yeah.
So it was like he goes out, he sees them, turns and keeps walking like, yep, either I give myself up and go to prison or I keep walking and get killed.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
I better do what that movie told me.
Exactly.
I remember almost legitimately feeling sick in the theater watching it during some of those like nighttime shootout scenes because that video look was just not good.
Yeah.
I was literally like, I can't fucking there was a moment where fucking somebody gets shot and I was like, oh my god, did they just kill John Dillinger?
Yeah.
And then later in the sequence you see Johnny Depp again and you're like, oh wait, who the fuck was that? Because it was like it was so blurry and so frenetic and just weird looking that it's like I couldn't focus on anybody correctly. And I was like, okay, and that guy's Johnny Depp. And then, oh my god, he's dead. Yeah. Okay, so that mustn't have been Johnny Depp. Who's this guy? Oh, is that Johnny Depp? Like, couldn't even fucking tell what was happening anymore.
Yeah.
So that definitely could have just some restraint. Just I don't know. There's a million ways you can go with it. You know, something that I also think of that kind of bothered me where it's like, all right, I get if you're wanting to show Dillinger in like a serious light and you're trying to not glorify you know, essentially a bank robber and murderer and all that. But when you hear some of the stories of the things that he did, it's like there's almost no other way to play it, and I almost feel like the movie could have used a little bit more levity in a way, because there's that whole sequence where he escapes from jail with like a gun carved out of soap or some shit. Yeah, or like a block of wood or something. Like it's a fake gun, and he uses it to like wrangle like 6 or 7 guards and like take them hostage and then escape from the jail. And they were talking, you know, I think Michael Mann himself or maybe whoever wrote the movie was talking about how they were like, yeah, we had to like tone it down because he took like 20 guards hostage with that fake gun, and it was just too ridiculous. And I was like, fucking play that straight.
Yeah.
Like make it funny. Make it be a moment where you like suddenly cut to
John Dillinger, what did you do?
Exactly. Like he's like he got in over his head like, oh man, it just started and then a snowball effect and now there's 20 of them.
That's what I want to see.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're going to a Michael Mann movie, you're not necessarily going for like the laughs. So, you know, I get that really wouldn't be his thing, but I guess really what the sort of topic we're talking about is that it's like it could have been better. So it's like, well, maybe that was the thing that made it not be right. Maybe it shouldn't have been Michael Mann. Maybe somebody else should have taken a crack at it. Because it's like, and obviously nothing against Michael Mann. Like fucking, I love Heat. Heat is a goddamn great movie, and Collateral's a really good movie too. Like he makes really good movies, and so it's not like I'm trying to say like, oh, what a bum. But it's just like maybe the movie needed a different direction, and I don't even know what would be the best way to go.
Yeah,
Quentin Tarantino, John Dillinger movie, because he would do that whole escape scene.
Oh yeah,
and he would play it for laughs and for like
this is what really happened.
Yeah, like he would probably break the fourth wall and have Samuel Jackson voiceover be like, this shit actually happened. 20 fucking guards. That would be tight, man.
That would be awesome.
I don't know. I think maybe it's just a sort of reflection of the times, but it's just like it feels like that was so long ago now. I was like, yeah, technically it's not even like 100 years, I don't think. You know what I mean? I think it was like the 30s, so not even necessarily 100 years since then. But it still just feels
almost 90 years.
Yeah, it feels like so mythical and like outlandish. It's like you almost gotta play it like it's like a legend, like a Jesse James kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like you kind of have to you're trying to make it realistic. I don't think is a great way to go about it. It just makes it really dry. It takes a really interesting story because they're always so heightened. And back then there was much less in terms of like proof of that shit.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm sure that guard one is real, but I'm sure there's plenty of other stories about things that John Dillinger did where it's like, yeah, that was just the word from that lady who lived down the block who saw the robbery happen. Who was like, I swear they had a flaming dog with them. And it's like, oh my God. Play it up like the sort of tall tale it's kind of become. I think that would be a fun way to go with that one. Now mine, on the other hand, I feel like would benefit, like, because the movie itself, for one, is Black Mass, like I think we mentioned. I don't recall if I said that already. But so, you get Johnny Depp playing John Dillinger, and then you get him playing Whitey Bulger.
Yep.
And it's like, in this case, much more recent, much more of like an actual thing where it's like he literally only just got captured and died like in the past decade. It's like, fuck, he was on the run for like 20 years. It definitely benefits from the way that the movie's made, where it's very much like just like a modern, slick, procedural kind of flick.
Yeah.
Watching it again, I'm a little less impressed with Johnny Depp's Whitey Bulger performance, because I remember right after seeing it, I was like, even if I was disappointed, he was pretty good, and he's still pretty good.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of times where his Boston accent just like slips into like, what the fuck was that? Was that like Transylvanian for a second there? I don't even know what you were going with that one. But also, I feel like it's too much about Whitey. I feel like watching it again and realizing how much Whitey's in the movie, how much it diminishes his like fear factor, like how like terrifying he is. Because it's just like you're just with him all the time, and he just keeps murdering people over and over to the point where by the end of the movie, like he's doing it again, and it literally like it's like everybody in the scene has also gotten tired of it. Or it's just like he like chokes the dude to death. There's like one last informant that he kills, and he just like wraps a noose around his neck and like pulls at it until he dies, and it just like drops on the floor, and then he just like and leaves the room, and everyone else is like, well, and then leave the room. Like nobody is affected by it anymore. And I feel like that was how I was feeling by that point. I was just like, okay, yeah, he killed someone else. Cool. Just like that time he killed that other guy, and then that girl, and then that other guy. Like
he kills people. I get it.
Yeah, he kills people a lot. If it was a little less of that and a little more of the actual interesting shit that book gives them. Watching it again, when we first went to see it, when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh shit, and I bought the book because I've always been interested in like that sort of mafia, the Winter Hill Gang thing. But I had never gotten the book. I'd never read it. And I was like, oh shit, okay, there's a movie coming out. All right, I'm going to have to do that. And found the book, read it and loved it. And then when the movie was coming out, getting super stoked for it, we go and see it. And I remember being like very disappointed. But then looking back on it now, after we sort of decided on this topic, I was like, okay, that one I remember being disappointed in. I bet you I could make a pretty good case as to, this should have been better. And then as I was watching it, I was like, I'm not feeling as disappointed as I feel like I was back then. Like, I don't know what's happening here exactly. Like how the movie got less disappointing, even though it's not as interesting. Like maybe my expectations are lower now or something like that. And I kind of figured that I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to like do a little quick skimming of the book too, because I had just finished reading the book. And I was like, I feel like there was a lot of stuff in there that I was like, how was this not the movie? How did you choose these things for the movie instead of these things for the movie? Like, what the fuck?
How did you choose all of the murders over character development?
And not even just necessarily character development, but just like giving us an actual fucking protagonist
Mm-hmm.
to the movie, or at least just somebody to root for. Because like watching it, I'm realizing like, okay, so you have Connolly, Joel Edgerton,
Mm-hmm.
and he's the FBI guy. He's from Southie, and he, wants to advance his career. So he's going to use his old pal from the projects, Whitey, as an informant,
Mm-hmm.
and basically just tell him like, okay, well, while you're our informant, nobody's going to be able to touch you. So it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of a scratch your back, we scratch yours deal. And then there's Whitey, who's fucking evil and murdering, and
Mm-hmm.
he's the other one. And you're just looking at him, and it's like neither of these guys are good guys,
Yeah.
and really at like any point in the movie. And it's pretty much just watching them be worse and worse until seemingly just some like unrelated circumstances happen and they wind up caught.
Mm-hmm.
And things like they rush through shit so much in the movie. There's one quick scene that basically, they try to rush everything into the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So stuff that happens over months, years, a decade gets squished into a scene, essentially. Because fucking there's a moment where Connolly comes in and there's a new like prosecutor guy who's taken over.
Okay.
As soon as Connolly shows up, he's like, why hasn't Whitey Bulger been arrested?
Yeah.
And he's just like, and then proceeds to blow the whole thing in this one scene. He goes from like, I know what I'm doing, to like groveling idiot who ruins his own life because he's just like, because Whitey he doesn't use phones all that much. And then he's like, well, whatever. If there's been a million, investigations into Whitey that haven't gone anywhere. Why haven't they gone anywhere? And he's like, oh, well, he's not really doing much anymore. And he's like, well, which is it? Is he not using phones or is he not doing anything? And he's just like, and then his whole thing is blown and everyone like knows what's going on because they're like, now you're suspicious.
Yeah.
And it's just such a dumb fucking scene. Because it's like, it just turns him into an idiot just to ruin everything. Because we didn't feel like going into the details of how long this took and how much shit had to happen to like lead people into it. And that's really the biggest thing is like they were running this scam for so long. Connolly and Morris, the two guys, like the guy and his supervisor, they would just squash everything. And a lot of times, like from behind the scenes, it wasn't even like they'd walk in and be like, this is our stuff now. We'll investigate, and then they just let it go. They would legit sabotage shit. Having that scene be essentially the thing that like brings all the scrutiny down on him is a really crappy way to go about it, because the real story is so much better, where it's like the way that they would intentionally derail investigations into Bulger and Flemmy, his associate and everything, led to their downfall essentially.
Yeah.
And it includes, and I'm gonna reference the book to sort of explain how this movie could have been done better. So for one, like I was saying, there's no fucking protagonist.
Right.
The book has a great protagonist, or at least a character who could be a really great protagonist. He's not in the whole story, but he could at least be somebody that you're kind of rooting for, because Bulger and Flemmy are protected by the FBI, not by the police or any of the other folks. So they are still being like investigated. Like there's shit that's happening on the police level that they're not sending up the pipeline to the FBI, because it's like, well, this is our shit.
Yeah.
We're going to investigate this.
Yeah.
And, they stake out this garage for a long time. And I think his name is O'Donnelly, is like the kind of guy who's in charge of this squad of the state police that have been watching Bulger and Flemmy. So you make that guy the lead guy, and you show a bunch of his attempts at getting to Bulger. And it would be great, you kind of leave less scenes for Bulger so you can build up that menace, that sort of, where it's like you don't see him in every fucking scene. So when he shows up, you're like, oh shit. So, you'd see him from a distance through all these scenes of him being surveilled, but have this guy be the actual like main character of the story and just, chronicle his horrible frustration as everything he's trying to do to get Bulger just goes sideways. Because they've been in the book, they talk about how they've been surveilling this garage where Bulger and Flemmy kind of do their business out of, like an auto mechanic place.
Yeah.
And they'd be standing out front, they talk with people, and they take people back into the office and do, exchanging of money and all this shit. Cops have been sitting there watching them for days and days, and they're like, holy shit, this is fucking awesome. Like, we got these guys. Oh man. So what are we gonna do? We gotta put a bug in there. we're going to bug Whitey's garage, essentially. Like, oh my God. They go through the trouble of getting the warrant for it, showing like, hey, these guys are doing shit. We need to get it on tape. One night. Well, there's a couple nights where they try to do stuff and it goes wrong. Like they just try to get a guy into the garage essentially, and they have one of them. I think it's O'Donnell. I forget, but it's one of the cops goes in disguised as a tourist, wanders in looking for a bathroom so that he could get in there somewhere and find a place to leave a bug. And Bulger just comes out, tells him there's no bathroom, and tells him to fuck off and leave the garage. And it's like, oh well, okay, that one didn't work.
Yeah.
So then their next plan, they get like a big, like a Winnebago van RV kind of thing. And they have another one of the cops and another cop, they're playing like newlyweds. And they're like, oh, we're new to the city. We're having our, our honeymoon. Our van broke down. Can we leave it here overnight and have a mechanic look at it in the morning? Because, we don't know the area. We need to get it fixed immediately, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, yeah, okay, whatever. You can park it in there. Meanwhile, O'Donnell is in a crawl space in the van. And they're going to once they close up shop, he's going to get out of the van, place the bugs, and get the fuck out of there. Problem is, when they're doing it, some fucking vagrant, like a wino, wanders around outside the garage and keeps like bumping into the door and making noise and like rumbling around. And they don't have any radio contact with the guy inside the van. So he has no fucking clue what's happening or what's out there. So he can't leave.
Yeah.
So he just gets stuck in the van. And then they have another plan. They have a guy buy a bunch of beer and take it to the vagrant. And they're like, hey, sit there, have him drink until he passes out. And then O'Donnell can come out of the van and do his shit.
Yeah.
But by the time the fucking vagrant passes out, the owner of the garage comes back.
Oh, jeez.
And it's like, oh, fuck. So eventually they have to get him out of there. I forget exactly how it happens. But they get him out of the van, but he can't place any of the bugs.
Yeah.
So then finally they do another plan. They park like a truck right near the garage. They block the view from anybody with using this big truck. They kick out a panel of the garage door. They get in. They place their bugs. The next day, everything changes. Like Whitey, they no longer bring anybody back into the office where they put the bugs. And nobody's talking about shit. They're going into Whitey's car to talk now. Like they park his car in the garage and they go and they talk in the car. Nowhere near any of the bugs. And when they're near the bugs, Whitey is extolling the virtues of the state police and talking about how great they are, like being a ball buster about it, like saying all these compliments because he knows they can fucking hear him. And they're just like, what the fuck? They found him? Like, we just put them in there. Fuck. Like, months later, they're still trying to do this. They're like, fuck, okay, we got to get him. And they discover their new routine where they're going out to this like bank of payphones. And like they'll have, one guy will show up early in the morning, make a phone call, go and sit in his car. Another car will show up. Bulger and Flemmy will go to separate phones, make phone calls, talk for a while, leave. And they would do that all the time. And that was sort of their new routine and how they were conducting their businesses. So the cops are like, all right, fuck, all right, okay. So we got a stakeout location right near there. Watch them for a few more days, making sure everything's cool, that this is what they're going to do every day. Like we get what they're doing. They get their fucking warrant to tap the payphones. They set everything up. And the next day, Bulger and Flemmy never show up. They never come back to the phones. They never use them again. And the fucking state police and O'Donnell and everyone there, they're just like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
How do these guys keep figuring it out? Like, I have no idea what's going on or why these guys won't fucking just fall into our traps. How do they know where they all are? And then there's some sort of inter-agency party or something where, essentially where state police and FBI people are mingling. And John Morris, the supervisor for Connolly, is talking to this guy at this party. He's talking to a guy from the state police. And for some reason, Morris, like an idiot, brings up Bulger. And the other guy's like, oh, yeah, I don't really know anything about, if there's any investigations going on with him right now. Kind of lying about it. Like, why would he bring up Whitey Bulger right now? Like, we just suffered all this defeat at his hands. Now he's bringing him up. Like, what the hell? And then Morris says something along the lines of like, well, if you're trying to put a bug on them, then they know about it. And the guy's just like, what the he obviously doesn't say it to him, but he's just thinking like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, what the hell is this dude talking about? How would he know that they know? Why do they know? Why does he know? You know, it's like, what the fuck is going on here? And so, you know, it's been months and months of fucking stakeouts and attempted, you know, buggings and all sorts of failed ploys. So they're finally, they're at wit's end with this. Like they have basically one last Hail Mary shot. And they're like, okay, we are going to bug Whitey's car. This is like the last chance we have is to bug his car. Again, speaking of this in terms of like this being the movie instead of the way that it is, you know, obviously you'd still have plenty of stuff in the background, or not background, but you'd have plenty of scenes of, you know, Connolly running shit and doing this and all the bad things that they're getting away with.
Yeah.
But you make the protagonist these folks and their quest to get, you know, the people who are under this thing, because it's like, you know, being in alliance with the FBI as a criminal, it's like you do whatever the fuck you want. There's nobody to look at you.
Yeah.
Except for these low-level folks who keep trying and keep getting stymied by some like invisible hand that keeps coming down and just blocking it. So they're like, okay, we gotta fucking get his car. You know, like this is the big thing. And this is truly like all of this shit, this whole saga of trying to get this bug on Whitey. This whole thing is basically that one little scene with the guy where he's like, why haven't they arrested Whitey Bulger? Oh, derp, I'm an idiot. Oh, now I'm suspicious of you. You know, they get it over with in like 2 minutes. And it's like, no, dude, this is the juicy part of the whole fucking story. So their plan, I got to grab my prop here, the actual book of Black Mass. So they have their final ditch plan. So Steve Flemmi is driving Whitey's car around. What they're going to do is they're going to pull him over, you know, and they're going to say that they got word that the car is stolen.
Yeah.
So they're going to take it. Obviously, it'll get cleared up in a minute,
right?
You know, once they get it to the impound lot. And then it's like, what the fuck? I have permission. But their plan is they're going to take the car, and as quickly and quietly as possible, before they even get it to the lot, they're going to install the bug. And then Flemmi's going to come, get the car, bugs implanted. There you go. They pull over Flemmi, and he says, what the fuck is this shit? You know, because he's a fucking gangster. He doesn't give a fuck if they're state troopers or not. He's going to talk shit to him. And he's like, do you know who I am? You fucking jerk. This is harassment. You know, he knows they don't have anything.
Yeah.
Like, they're just pulling him over to be dicks. You know, and so they ask for his registration. And Flemmi's like, I ain't got no fucking registration. Like, these are dealer plates. And they're like, yeah, well, you still should have a registration. I'm going to have to call this in. And, you know, oh, turns out it's stolen, you know, and they even have a couple of the troopers play acting on the radio, being like, oh, please be advised that this vehicle comes back as stolen from Nassau County, New York in July 1970, like making up this whole fake thing so that it sounds official. So it's like, hey, we got to take it, covering their bases. And they tell him like, all right, well, it's going to have to be towed. And this is just such good fucking writing. This is one of my favorite paragraphs of this whole book. But it's just, Flemmi was apoplectic. Then he uttered the words that made Long is one of the troopers, like the head trooper, along with O'Donovan or whoever the fuck the other guys were. Then he uttered the words that made Long's and every other state trooper's stomach turn to mush. You tell fucking O'Donovan that if he wants to bug my car so bad, I'll drive it right up to fucking 1010. O'Donovan was obviously Lieutenant Colonel John O'Donovan, Long's commander, and 1010 was a reference to state police headquarters. Flemmi knew it was over. I fucking love that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
The fact that he just calls him on it, right? You know, you think like, all right, well, maybe they'll get it done. Maybe the bug will work. Maybe that. And it's like, no, they're not even going to get the chance to. There's nothing. They are that far ahead. And now he's not even afraid to say it just outright. Like, hey, fucking, I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Such a cool moment. Waiting for it in the movie. And they don't even bother to talk about these state troopers and the bug and everything. But that is what fucking does it. Like, they don't know it at the time. You know, nobody does. The state troopers themselves don't know it. Flemmi and them don't know it. Nobody knows it. But that is what gets the ball rolling towards, like, people asking questions about this. You know, people being like, how do these guys know ahead of time that all this is going to be happening?
Yeah.
How are they so protected? What is going on here? And that's what really unravels the story of Connolly and Bulger working together. That whole alliance gets unraveled because of that. But in the movie, it's just one dude being like, "What's up with that?" and Connolly being like, "Duh." And it's like, well, it's all over. Them getting in the way of these guys getting caught is what eventually gets them caught. I love that. And it's such a bummer that it's not even touched upon. It just, in the movie, it just seems like an inevitability. Bad guys eventually get caught.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, but the why and the how is what's fucking interesting, not just that they got caught.
Yeah.
You know, it really bugged me that it's like, why are you focusing on his fucking dead kid? You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, okay, that happened. That's great. I don't fucking care. That has nothing to do with the story that's interesting about Black Mass, this book. How do you get that? How do you take that part from the book?
Yeah. Seriously.
You know what I mean? It's like there's such cool police procedural shit that you could be doing, you know, full of like intrigue and tension. You know what I mean? Like imagine those sequences of them trying to get the fucking bugs into the garage and into the car and all that kind of stuff. Like how much fun and excitement and just like, oh, what's going to happen next is yeah, exactly. And instead we're getting like 5-minute long scenes of him sitting at the dinner table telling his kid, like, you know, if you punch someone and nobody's looking, it's like you didn't even punch him. It's like, I don't need to know his fucking parenting styles. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
There's nothing about his home life that's interesting to me except for his brother. You know, because he's the state senator and everything. It's like, that's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't give a fuck about his girlfriends and his ex-wife and his dead kid. I'm not really feeling this. I don't care. And it just, the way it glosses over so much of it. And it never really portrays Connolly as like bloodthirsty enough. I'd like to know why he felt like why he felt that way. You know, show me his drive to be the best agent in the world or, you know, be the top dog of everything. Show me that so I understand why he's willing to do this. Because in the movie, it just seems so flippant.
Yeah.
It seems like he's just like, oh, wait, I know Whitey.
Yeah.
Oh, this will be fun.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the movie, he's like, I guess they got us. Like, it wasn't like a fun, jaunty weekend.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they caught us. It's like, this was decades of corruption and murder and cover-ups. And the movie just plays it like they were like, it was fun while it lasted.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much shit in this book that you could do. And they just seem to focus on the dumbest of it. There's like a couple of parts where it was pretty necessary, but they still even get it wrong in ways that are just like, I guess it's more cinematic, but it just makes Whitey seem stupid. Like when they kill fucking Peter Sarsgaard character in the parking lot, the guy who's going to like rat on them about killing and Connolly to protect them is like, this guy's clearly an idiot who doesn't know what he's talking about. Cut him loose. And he's like, oh, they'll kill me if you cut me loose. And he's like, what are you going to do? And then they fucking kill him. In the book, you know, in the real world, what happened, you know, Whitey did in fact kill him, but him and the guy who went with him were disguised, you know, so it's like, it wasn't like they were walking around in broad daylight shooting people, which is what happens in the movie, where he literally just like waltzes into the parking lot, taking no efforts to conceal himself.
Yeah.
And he just like walks up and shoots him like in the face like 8 times. And it's just like, why would he ever do this? Like he's so much smarter than that.
Yeah.
And the book portrays that side really well of like how he would try to keep his hands clean or at least do I mean, even the movie tries to make that point in the beginning of like, if people don't see it, it didn't happen. And it's like, yeah, okay. Do you think people didn't see in the middle of the day in the parking lot? That's not really a people didn't see it kind of moment. That's a in front of the entire public kind of moment. So it's like he's not even following his own rules, for God's sake. Why couldn't you just put a ski mask on him? Didn't make any sense. Well, I think that's gonna have to wrap it up for this week.
That's enough disappointment for one.
Yeah, for 1 week. So signing off for Popcorn for Dinner. This is Jeff
and Kelly.
Later.